Earlier on Newsmax Prime, we talked about that budget deal that outgoing Speaker John Boehner worked out with the White House last night. Turns out the economy will be the main topic during tomorrow night's third GOP presidential debate. And in part two of my exclusive interview with Jeb Bush, I asked the former Florida governor about our fiscal health and just where we stand in the wake of President Obama's economic policies.
Under 2% growth, we've doubled the debt in the 8 years that Barack Obama will have served. He has created more debt than all of his predecessors, all 43 of his predecessors. Low growth doesn't create revenue for government. All the exotic forms of taxation that the left now imposes, Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, all of the tax increases pale by comparison to high sustained economic growth. 4% growth should be our aspiration. The four things that we could do to get to that, I believe, is dramatic reform of our tax code, where we simplify the code and lower rates. That will create a dynamic explosion of investment that will create rising income for all sorts of families that right now are struggling around their kitchen table, wondering whether they can make ends meet. Secondly, we need to deal with the mind-numbing rules that right now have created a wet blanket on the most dynamic country on the face of the earth. This country is so extraordinary, and yet we now are stifled by rules upon rules upon rules. And this administration has tripled down on rulemaking authority that creates so much uncertainty, so much complexity, and so much cost. The next president has to have the skills to unravel that mess, shifting power back to the states and repealing the rules that are really stifling our ability to rise up. Third, embrace the energy revolution. 40% of this tepid growth that we've had in the last 6 years, this 2% growth, 40% of it has been in the energy sector. It's the great success story of America, and this president and Hillary Clinton and the left want to destroy it. They believe that hydraulic fracturing somehow is some evil deed, when in fact it's creating a revolution of massive amounts of natural gas and oil, allowing us to use it as a national security tool, but also use it to create high-wage jobs over the long haul and to allow consumers to get a break of lower utility prices and lower gasoline prices. I mean, I can't think of anything bad about this. Lower carbon. 10% reduction in carbon, if that keeps you up at night. I mean, this is a success story. We could get to 4% growth if we rein in federal government spending and then created a climate where people could invest in their own dreams in this country.
One other aspect to the economy a lot of folks are concerned about, Governor, the fact that we're at zero interest rates.
Yeah.
That where we are right now hurts savers and people on pensions. As president, would you, quote, encourage the Fed to perhaps raise rates?
As president, I would appoint a Fed chairman that would move, I think, towards the traditional Fed policy that was focused on containing inflation. The Federal Reserve today is actually enabling extraordinarily bad behavior in the fiscal side. So, you know this well. Debt service today is less than it was 12 years ago, but the debt has grown by 250%. How could that be? Well, we've shortened all the maturities of the debt. It's like we're borrowing on a credit card, and the debt is basically 0%. Of course debt service is lower, but imagine if the pressure is, if we can't do this in a controlled fashion, ultimately the rest of the world is going to say the United States is not serious of dealing with its fiscal problems and will abandon us. And if that happens, you'll see huge hardships. So I think phasing back to the traditional kind of interest rate environment where savers are rewarded and where big government actually has to become smaller government and where large corporates will still access rich, deep capital markets, but they'll have to maybe spend more, invest more in the equity side of their business and less on the debt side. That's the proper approach for a long, sustained economic growth.
You had quite an economic record as governor of Florida. What did you learn? What do you think was the most important thing you were able to do economically during your time as governor of that state?
During those 8 years, 1.3 million jobs were created, even though the government, state government, reduced its workforce by 13,000. You can do this if you're true to your committed to your conservative principles.
And this programming reminder, of course, you can continue to see excerpts of this exclusive interview with Jeb Bush all this week, right here on Newsmax Prime. Up next, a new video showing a law enforcement official, a school resource officer, taking down a female student in class. It's got everyone talking, including Alan Dershowitz and Tom Ruskin. Next.